Welcome back to Learn SKN, and today we are looking at methods of transport. We are still looking at logistics and supply chain in the CSEC POB syllabus. So today we are looking at methods of transport. But you know what to do before we jump right into the content. You like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you know when Learn SKN drops another video. Alright, let's jump right into it now. So we're looking at methods of transport. And so we outlined them before. Air, land, sea, waterways. Those are methods of transport. So airplanes are widely known for transporting people. However, they are also all cargo carriers designed specifically for carrying cargo and not people. These planes can transport large volumes of cargo over long distances at a relatively reasonable cost. So we all know about these airplanes used for cargo. Even here we have Amerijet. Amerijet would come in just with cargo alone. They got no space for the passenger. This is all cargo. So that's air transport right there. And they can travel over long distances in shorter span of time at a reasonable cost. Right? So you can see a difference one time right there as it relates to other methods, because if you're using a boat, it's going to take a longer time than you're using a plane. So you have air transport. And you have the big plane right there carrying all the cargo. You know, when you have a passenger plane, they might, have your bags underneath and whatnot. But this is a plane dedicated to cargo. And so the fuselage or the body is basically empty as it relates to chairs and that kind of stuff. And you're just putting in these different packages. Right? So that's airplane. That's air transport. Now there are some advantages and disadvantages to using air transport. Some advantages include it is the fastest mode of transport, hands down. It is the fastest mode of transport. From all the modes described before, traveling by air, transporting by air is the fastest mode of transport. It is highly suitable for perishable goods and important documents that needs to be transported quickly. Again, we can see this because imagine, like I said, we rely heavily on food, and so sometimes, perishable goods in general, you may want them to reach quickly, right? But the reality is this: sometimes if you're a farmer and you are producing for the export market, then you would know to harvest your goods at a certain level, a certain maturity. So by the time they reach, they wouldn't be overripe or anything like that. But that's beside the point. Maybe it's not only food; could be milk and that kind of stuff, right? So perishable goods is best for perishable goods because it's a quick, fast, one time, and important documents. Imagine you have a document to sign, and that document is very time sensitive, so you need it by a certain time. It doesn't make sense putting it on a boat because the boat going to take an extra time. So a plane would be the best one. That's why FedEx and those things are so popular when it comes to getting documents to persons. You order a car online, they're going to send a pro forma invoice via the courier services, your FedEx and whatnot, and they're going to reach even before the car get a chance to reach, right? So that's what it's good for. Less infrastructure is needed for air transport than with other methods, such as the laying of rail tracks for rail transport. So they're saying less infrastructure, meaning that you have an airport already. So that might be all you need. You don't need anything extra to get the plane up and running. Sometimes you might have a nice lawn, a nice runway, open field. That could work for certain plane types, right? So in the case of a railway, you need to lay the tracks. So you just can't get an engine and run it on the ground just like that. You need to lay tracks. Even with cars or trucks on the road, you need proper infrastructure. You need proper infrastructure in place. It doesn't make sense to have pothole-ridden streets and things like that. One of the back in history in America, one of the things that really spurred the expansion of the roads was the invention of the car. After the Ford Model T was created and it became so popular, people didn't really want to destroy the car on dirt tracks and stuff like that. And so the car was so cheap that a lot of people could afford it. And so there was an explosion of car ownership. And so that led to the expansion of the highway system in America. So they had to lay infrastructure down to accommodate cars and things like that. As it relates to the air transport, you don't need that much infrastructure in reality because, like I say, you can land in an open field, you land on the tarmac, and you're good to go. There are basically no physical barriers to affect the route of the plane. There are basically no physical barriers to affect the route of the plane. So they are saying because the plane is flying, really and truly, there's nothing physical to stop the plane from flying. So they're saying that if you want to go from St. Kitts to Miami, straight flight. Nothing to stop you. Really, physical to stop you. But look at the example here. Remember, I showed you the last class. I showed you the Panama Canal. I showed you where, back in the day, before the canal was built, boats had to go. If a boat wanted to go from New York to California, the boat had to go from New York, come down to South America, go around the bottom of South America, and go all the way up to Chile side, all the way up, Peru, everybody, go up until they reach to California. They had to go all the way down and around South America because there were physical barriers there to the route. Right? That wouldn't happen with a plane. You want to go from New York to California, you jump in a plane, up in the air, fly on straight to California. You don't have to go around and about and things like that. Physically, of course, they're talking about. Right? So, that's one major advantage there again for air transport. Up, down, cross, and straight through. You're just going through the air. You don't have to reroute. Sometimes to get a train to run, you need a tunnel. You have to blow up the mountain and that kind of thing. You have to reroute because you can't penetrate here, there, everywhere. Right? So, no physical barriers. So, those are some advantages of air transport. But what about some disadvantages now? It can be risky and small mistakes can be costly to lives and property. Right? So they ain't making no joke here. Flying is risky. A mistake can cost your life and your property. Planes crash now and then. So that's a risk right there. So that goes without saying. We don't have to expound on that one too much. Right? Let's say it is not suitable for large, bulky cargo, which is true. Because one of the things about cargo via the air is that they want to pack as much as possible, right? But you cannot be too bulky because you're playing at the fly still. And so you can't pack a big jet engine and a lot of containers and stuff in a plane, right? So there are certain items that are just more suitable for different mode of transport. I mean, I don't hear them talk about any car planes coming into St. Kitts. You have the car boat coming from Japan full of cars. Try that with a plane. That's going to be problematic. Right? You're going to hold a lot and it's going to make it too heavy for the plane to take off. So, it is not suitable for large, bulky cargo. It is very costly. Right? For those of us who order stuff, we know that if you put something on a boat versus a plane, the plane is going to be more costly every time. The boat can take longer, but you have to pay for that. It'll be cheaper. But plane almost instantly, and it's going to be more expensive. Trust me, jet fuel is not cheap. Right? Jet fuel is not cheap. You have to pay the jet fuel fee. You have to pay the airport tax, all those things. So it's very costly compared to the rest. It is affected by adverse weather conditions. Of course, we know if you have a storm, a hurricane, whatever, the average plane, unless you're a storm chaser plane, the average plane is not going to be flying in the weather. Right? Some boats can brave certain high seas. Right? But the planes, yeah, you have a little weather, little thunderstorm. That's it for them until next time. So those are some advantages and disadvantages of air transport. So we're looking at road transport. So road transport is the transport of people and goods from one place to another via roads. A road is any route between two destinations that has been paved or worked in some way. It is the most common form of transportation within the Caribbean economy, with businesses employing the use of vans, trucks, motorbikes, etc. to move people and goods. And so we look at some advantages and disadvantages of road transport right here. And we can see that they got a fair number of advantages right here for road transport. So let's look at them. It is very flexible. it can be used for door-to-door delivery, we know that, as well as moving large quantities from port of entry to plant facilities. So I don't see how we'll have door-to-door delivery with anything but road, right? I don't think you have a plane showing up to your door to do that kind of service. Maybe in the future, I see Amazon practicing to use, training to use drones for delivery, where they have drones just come down and put this stuff right in front of your door. So maybe sometime down the line, we might see that kind of thing happening. For now, the road is the main way of door-to-door delivery. And you can also be used for moving large quantities from the airport or the seaport to where they have to go. If you ever take a chance to look at the port here, you can see all these containers, 20-foot, 40-foot containers being pulled to their final destination. Right? Some big, heavy containers containing a lot of things being moved to their final destination. It is suitable for reaching all locations in the country from rural to urban. Right? That's a little stretch because, you know, sometimes some places just don't have road access. You know, some places just don't have road access. Right? Whether because it's too hilly or something like that. But for the most part, it is suitable to reach all locations. Like, I find it hard to think of a location here in the country where we cannot reach via the road. Right? There's hardly any I can think of. Even to go to Mount Lyamiga, there's some little tracks up there, little road access. You go in Durham Pond, there's some little access right there. So roads can be carved out in a million different places to enable you to access these areas from rural to urban, town, country, doesn't matter. Roads can be put in place to access these places. It allows for fast delivery of goods from plant to customer. So fast delivery of goods from plant to customer. Sometimes when you place an order on Amazon, they use ground delivery. And something may happen to reach there in a short span of time. Because a lot of these services tend to have the drivers driving almost 24/7. Right? So sometimes you get your stuff in a more timely manner, especially based on the location of the plant, of the factory, of whatever. So it can get to you in a relatively quick time, given, you know, the circumstances, especially if it's delivered straight to your place. Because even if it comes on a plane, they still have to go and you have to manifest everything. Then you have to go and clear them, customs, all that kind of stuff. But if they're being delivered straight to you from the factory, it could be faster sometimes, based on paperwork and things like that. The location of the goods being transported can be monitored via GPS. And I must say this can be true for a lot of goods today. Remember, we look at information in logistics. And we know tracking numbers and those things are important because they can show you where your items are located in real time. Even if they're in the air, in a plane, they're going to show you in transit. Right? But ever so often, you might lose the location with the plane. They'll just tell you in transit. But with a car or on the road, the GPS would always be able to pinpoint where that car is driving, where that truck is. So so GPS have limited applications for air, in terms of sometimes you have cloud cover and all kind of stuff, and you know, multiple things that would prevent GPS from tracking you properly. But on the ground, you can track it relatively easy. Communication with the driver can be done easily, right? You pick up the walkie-talkie, pick up the phone, whatever. They are readily available, readily accessible because of the nature of road transport. A big one now, it can be cost effective, right? Road transport can be cheaper, can be cost effective. Compare the volume that can be transported with the cost of fuel, driver, and wear and tear on the vehicle. So it can be cost effective. It can be a little cheaper than other methods of transporting these goods. It offers easy publicity as advertising can be placed on the vehicle, right? So sometimes you see the UPS van going by. Sometimes you see the Domino's stickers there. You see all these advertising for delivery services on the truck, passing through traffic. You can see it. If a plane has on a branding, you'll see it for a glimpse and then that's it, right? We're not up in the air watching planes passing by. So as it relates to publicity and advertising, road transport trumps most of the others as it relates to branding and that kind of thing. So those are some advantages of using road transport compared to other transportation methods. But there are some disadvantages also, such as it is subject to delays on the road. Example, caused by accident, roadworks, etc. I'm not saying other modes are not subjected to delays because, weather might be bad, and you have a delay. A ship might be delayed because of weather, things like that. But the reality is, there's more often a delay because of traffic jam, road work, accident than any other delays out there. So the road transport is more subjected to delays than most other methods of transport. Imagine you have a train. That train running straight across the track. Unless there's a derailment or something, that train running unobstructed. So no traffic jam, nothing. In fact, traffic have to move out of the way of the trains when they're passing. Right? There's no, in the ear, once you have your ear lane to travel, you get your clear, you're good to go. It is costly as it requires regular maintenance of vehicles to avoid breakdowns. Right? So we know that too. Every minute you have to service the vehicles because they wear and tear up and down. Trains will last for a long time. Planes last for a long time. Just routine maintenance and they last for a long time. But vehicles tend to depreciate a little faster and the wear and tear tend to be a little bit higher on them. Breakdowns occur frequently enough. Right? So they are costly to maintain. It requires drivers to be well trained to avoid damage to goods from reckless driving. So, some of these trucks, anybody could just up and drive these trucks. You have to have a special license to drive these vehicles, and they're still subject to human error. Sometimes you drop sleep in the vehicle, get an accident, things like that. But the driver needs to be specially trained to maneuver some of these big trailer trucks on the public road. Not anybody could drive these things, right? Even with the regular vehicles, you need somebody who's trained still, or else they're gonna scratch your car, destroy the products inside, that kind of thing. So you don't need any rookie drivers on this. It is subject to delays from weather, example rain and flooding. So again, the weather, nobody could beat Mother Nature. Mother Nature is one and all. Nobody could beat Mother Nature, right? They ain't losing. It can add to air pollution due to emissions from diesel trucks. There are limits to the speed that can be used. So because of the last 2 years, pollution, I would say all transportation methods have their own way of polluting. But vehicles, because they're so flourishing, there are a lot of them out there. And they exist in a realm where there are other vehicles on the road. They contribute overall to more pollution. Limits again with speed. Remember we said that the airplane is a faster way to travel. You can only go so fast in a vehicle before you lose control. You can only go so fast before you get an accident. You can only go so fast before police pull you up. So you're limited to drive maybe 60 miles per hour, 80 miles per hour, whatever it might be. And that might take away from, getting stuff to you in a more timely manner. So those are some advantages and disadvantages of road transport. Okay, again, so going to the railway system quickly again. So good for moving bulky cargo and transporting over long distances. That's an advantage. Goods can be moved at a faster rate than the road transport. Cheaper than road transport. Tends to be very reliable as there are set schedules and no traffic on the lines. Again, you can see that that's a plus and a minus. It's a plus in the sense that you can rely on the timing. It's a minus in the sense that, as I say here, schedules can be rigid. So shippers must conform to times provided. And again, I say advantage, because there are no traffic on the railway lines, it can be a little bit more reliable, a little faster, because no traffic jam on the train tracks more often than that. But disadvantages again, require a heavy capital investment by government. Again, like I said, if you want to start a rail system today, you have to install lines, you have to buy the engines, etc., etc. Not suitable for small quantities of goods and short distances. In these circumstances, it can be unethical, uneconomical, meaning it might cost you more to use the train to deliver just small things over a short span of time than a next mode of transport. And of course, there's no door-to-door delivery using trains, and you have to implement you have to use a next method of transport, such as trucks or vans, to get this stuff from the station to their final destination. So those are some advantages and disadvantages of the rail system, right? So the next system we're looking at here is, so we finish the rail system, sea, traveling using cargo or cruise via the sea. So in marine and transport shipping, containers are important. These are metal containers of standardized sizes of 5 feet, 10 feet. They can be easily loaded and unloaded by the shipper and stacked one on top of the other and transferred from one mode of transport to another. Example, sea to road without being open. So we see that all the time. You have some trailers, some containers on the boat. The longshoreman then work the boat, take them off the boat, put them on the trailer one time, trailer take it to where they're supposed to be. Especially those refrigerated containers, right? So that's one advantage you can see right there, because you can stack them on top of each other. I'm pretty sure you've seen pictures where cargo ships are ram-packed with containers. Containers sometimes 3-4 stacks high, containing a lot of stuff. So it's the boat plus the container. So you can see how these things can carry a lot of cargo in one haul, the boats. In the Caribbean, sea transport is used to move goods in and out of the region. It is suitable for very large quantities of goods, and most seaports include an international jetty as well as a West Indian jetty. It is also useful for transporting people between the smaller islands, where ferries are used to move citizens from island to island or from one point on an island to another. Cruise ships also operate within the region. They bring tourists from the countries into the Caribbean. Some cruise ships target regional customers sailing within the Caribbean. So we can see that using sea transport can be used for both cargo and humans. So what are some advantages and disadvantages of using the sea as the mode of transport? Advantage, straight up, it is suitable for large and bulky goods. Remember we said that on the plane. There was this recurring question on multiple choice for CXC, POB. They are saying that engines are made in Trinidad and they want them in Barbados. What's the best mode of transport for these heavy engines? And of course the answer would be via the sea. For one thing, there are no bridges or roads between Trinidad and Barbados. Next thing, plane kind of short drop right there. And also plane air is not really the best for bulky items such as car engines, right? So like I said, you don't see any car plane coming in, landing down in the Caribbean to bring cars from Japan. You hear about car boats, because the boat is the best way of carrying all of these cars, bulky goods. So anything heavy, bulky, the best bet is using the ocean, the marine transport. It is suitable for non-perishable items. Again, if you know the item is not going to spoil, because a boat takes so long, relative to the other farms, things can spoil. But the reality is that a lot of food come in via the boats because a lot of the containers are refrigerated. So if you're looking at perishable just in the form of food, then cargo ships are still one of the best because you have refrigeration. But for other goods that might be perishable, then, a plane would be a little faster, a little better. It can be cost effective for large shipments because a boat can carry such heavy cargo, pile them on top of each other, it is more cost effective. You can carry way more things on a boat than you can on a plane, straight up. And the cost would be overall less than if you were carrying the same thing on a plane. It might be impossible. It can carry specialized cargo from containers to loose shipments of oil and grain. So a boat can be designed to carry a whole lot of different things. Like I said, car boat. Load up the cars, build for that. You have boats carrying just oil tankers, designed just for that. You have boat designed carrying just grains and other items like that. So boats can be built special to carry certain types of cargo. So those are some advantages of marine transport. But what are some disadvantages though? It is lengthy and therefore proper planning is required, as there is a long lead between ports. That goes without saying. I've been saying it for a long time. Boats take a while to reach their destination. And so you have to make sure you plan properly, because imagine you forget something, the boat have to turn back, not turn back, but go on the return trip. We're going to take about the same time as the previous leg, and then you have to come back again with these things. That's a lot of time wasted. And so you have to be careful and plan properly. But the bottom line is, traveling via sea is slower than most other modes of transport. It can be delayed by bad weather, example hurricanes and storms. Like, which transport isn't delayed by hurricanes and storms? So all of them, that's a disadvantage. It is subject to customs and excise regulations, and the goods may have to be inspected. So it's simply telling you a lot of paperwork involved in transporting via the sea. Paperwork. A lot of regulations, rules. Nobody wants to bring in any illegal substances. You have to check to see if you're bringing in any invasive species. The food you're bringing in, you have to check to see if they have any disease. A lot of stuff. Sanitary, phytosanitary issues. So you have to check all of these. Insurance of goods is highly recommended, and it increases the cost overall. So it doesn't make sense to put your stuff on a boat without insurance, because it takes so long to come and you never know what might happen. And so you want to make sure they're insured. But in doing so, it increases the overall cost of doing transport via the sea. I'm pretty sure we looked at some insurance before. Our marine insurance is one of the examples that we covered. There can be pilferage of goods, so stealing, at the various ports, even though the use of containers should prevent this. So they're saying a lot of people always complain about customs stealing their stuff. You know, people they send this, you get that, you don't get what you're supposed to get. Container locks open, all kind of things. Because of the fact that it takes so long to begin with, people can get time to, you know, steal. When they rest on the port, people get time to steal because, you know, slow movement and things like that. So that's a disadvantage of sea transport, where stealing goes on. Good. Any questions about sea, marine? So far, no questions, because I think they're pretty clear. But if there are any questions, let me know. But I'll just roll into pipelines. Pipelines transport goods or materials through pipelines, right? So, obvious. This is suitable for liquids, gases, and chemically stable substances. Pipelines are important for the movement of crude and refined petroleum, as well as fuels such as natural gas. They are also important for moving water throughout countries. And so we can see the advantage of using pipelines. Not all countries are gifted with natural resources such as natural gas or anything like that. And so some countries have to build pipelines with each other to facilitate the movement of natural gases. For example, you have pipelines between Russia and Germany, Russia and Europe for the most part, because Russia produces energy, natural gas, things like that, oil, that kind of stuff, and they use pipelines to transport these materials. Even in America, who produce their oil and shale and not shale, but oil and natural gas and that kind of thing, they use pipelines. There was an issue with a pipeline recently in the Trump era, the Dakota pipeline, where they would transport petrochemicals. They were planning to do it, but you know, the Indians, Native Americans, they made an uproar about their sacred lands and stuff like that, and so that was cancelled basically. So pipelines in Trinidad, The pipelines are used to transport petrochemicals, that kind of stuff. Jamaica, same way. So pipelines are used to transport various items. So there's some advantages and disadvantages of using pipelines. But you have to understand that pipelines are so specific. So specific. You know, liquids, gases, you know, like water and those things. Specific. You can't transport anything to using pipelines. Advantages. It is possible to transport large volumes. So you have to consider what you're think about what you're talking about. When it's a large volumes, you're talking about volumes of gas, liquid, that kind of stuff. It is not affected by the weather and can move goods 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Because the pipelines are constantly running. They valve open, they just run. Gas coming through, constant supply, all day, every day, weather or not. But sometimes, to be honest, weather can affect pipelines in the sense that if like there's a freak storm or something and you have frozen pipes, problems. Sometimes they freeze and they burst, problems, right? So that's an issue. It can have high safety levels with low incidence of accidents. Yes, you have some drippage, some leakage. That was one of the reasons why the Native Americans did not want any pipelines going across their sacred lands, because there can be spillage, there can be drippage. We don't want that. It is cost effective for large quantities. Disadvantages now. A high capital investment is required. It is not cheap. Imagine running a pipe from Russia to Germany. That cannot be cheap. From one part of America all the way to the other part. Not cheap. You have to lay all them pipes. You have to lay that to all those pipes. And we talk about little pipes. You have to talk about thick pipes that can contain these kind of movements. Real heavy duty pipes. Some pipes are actually under the sea connecting different countries. So expensive investment right there. Broken or damaged lines can lead to pollution, affects lives, and incur a high cost. It is a fixed route as pipelines cannot be easily moved. So all those are disadvantages of using pipelines as a method of transporting these specific items. Okay, and the last one we're going to look at, the last method of transport, is more of a modern take on things, right? This one we call digital distribution or digital delivery. And I'm pretty sure all of us are familiar with digital distribution or digital delivery, right? Because anybody who buys stuff, you buy an app, it's delivered to your phone. You buy music or download music, it is delivered to your device. You buy in a game online, you go on Xbox Store, PlayStation Store, Amazon, you download that. Back in the day, we had to buy the physical copies. So you want a game, you have to pay for the physical copies. You go on Amazon, the game costs maybe 50 US, 60 US. By the time you reach St. Kitts, the game costs about 200. Right? Because you have to pay customs, pay this, pay that. So, you know, replacing some of the physical products. So digital delivery is closely linked to e-commerce. Many products can be purchased online, and instead of a physical product being delivered to the customer, a unique URL, that's the link to download this stuff, is delivered. The customer then follows the online steps. These usually require creation of an account and password, after which the product is downloaded onto the customer's gadget. So like an old-time book or gadget. Laptop, phone, tablet. This method of transportation has become popular and is offered for products such as books, music, journal articles, payments for phone services, etc. Alright, so we see that happening today. A lot of mobile banking happening. A lot of buying ebooks. A lot of buying games online, all that stuff. So what are some advantages and disadvantages of digital distribution or digital delivery? Alright, keep in mind things like Netflix, that's a part of this whole digital delivery. Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Apple Plus, well, all those things. It is fast, no denying that. I normally play games, and back in the day, I want a game, I go online, buy it, takes a while to reach here. But today, you go on the system, see the game you want, you buy it, because I have fast enough internet, before the day is over, you're playing the game, right? So it is fast. Customers can receive their products instantly, and only delay when can be caused by the speed of the internet. That's the main problem right there. The speed of the internet can be the real problem maker, but for the most part, it is there for you. Care must be taken by seller to ensure that the product is safeguarded and cannot be shared or copied. Right? So you know these people don't want any piracy happening. And so they will ensure that this thing can only be done by the person who paid the money. We want no copying, no sharing, no piracy. There are basically no physical barriers to affect the transfer of data unless through legislation. Certain countries limit the internet, right? That's a little censorship or whatever. But for the most part, nothing physical can affect you getting your digital product, unless, of course, again, your computer ain't no good, internet ain't no good, something like that. But for the most part, nothing physical can really get in your way. It has allowed many talented artists to produce and sell their work quickly without hassle and cost of producing a CD. The seller benefits from a large built-in audience of potential buyers who already exist on the internet. Good. Some disadvantages now. And you know there should be some troubling ones. It usually requires the use of credit card. So imagine you don't have a credit card, that's it for you. You can't get to buy anything, right? So it usually includes a credit card. It is more suitable for tech-savvy buyers. So insulting other people now. They say only people into tech, really and truly, it is suitable for. I mean, I'll be honest, because I've sent out, for this class alone, I've said we can use mobile banking. A lot of persons prefer to pay cash still. Mobile banking is there to make everything easier, but persons still mean that, cash in hand, the old school way. Some people just cannot be bothered to download the app and that kind of stuff, right? So one day all of us will be more digitally friendly, digitally savvy, and so we can reach that stage. But for now, some persons just ain't into the digital, just love the physical copies, and so that's a thing. It requires the use of the internet, which is wide stream and does not cover all buying public. They're saying that not everybody have access to the internet, and even if you do have access to the internet, not everybody have access to good internet. So imagine you downloading a game, and that game is about 80 gigabytes, and you only got cable basic package. Man, that thing gonna last a couple days to download. Makes sense to buy the physical and let the board bring it in or something. Right? So that's a hindrance. The level of competition is high as the seller is competing with all other online sellers. So not only are you competing with your local people, but all online sellers. And that is why you saw the death of local rental, local video game rentals and movie rentals, and that, you saw the death of them, because they are no longer competing just with the local. They're competing with Netflix, they're competing with Amazon, that kind of stuff. Now, one major disadvantage that they did not highlight here is ownership. That's a major disadvantage. Ownership. Because the reality is, if I download a digital copy of something on somebody's app or whatever, I don't own that. From the time the app gone in, the product gone. Perfect example is with video games. Some games are only available if you buy them digitally. Sometimes the store, PlayStation, Xbox, whatever, would say they're gonna delist the game, as in take it off the store. and so you cannot even buy the thing anymore. So if you download it, uninstall it, try to reinstall it, it's gone. You don't have ownership of these digital items. It's basically a license you're paying to get it, and the owners can do whatever they want with it. I've seen times where companies go on your phone and remove certain apps, send out an update, remove certain things on the apps, certain security things. Just they can do what they want. Because in essence, we don't own anything. So that's one major disadvantage of digital delivery. You don't really own anything, right? Good. Any questions about any of the transportation? So transport documents are very, very important because we don't want nobody claiming stuff that ain't belong to them or things like that. So the importance of transport documents. It is important to record and monitor information about the movement of goods from the producer to the end user. Transport documents will set out details of the consign or the shipper of the goods and the consignee, the receiver of the goods. Transport documents are important because they represent the contract of carriage, outlines all the conditions related to the shipping transaction, provides proof that the goods have been delivered, show that the goods were delivered to the shipper in good condition and clean. If the goods have been damaged, the document will be known as dirty, with the flaws and damages noted. Shows ownership of the goods. The person who is listed as the consignee will then present themselves to the customs to receive the goods. So you can see how important these documents are. Without them, I mean, I don't know how many you would have gone and tried to clear something from customs or anything like that. But you just can't show up empty-handed, right? You need to bring your documentation to prove this belongs to me, etc., etc. So it represents a contract of carriage that's between, you know, the shipper and the person who enlists their assistance, their help. Provides proof that the goods have been delivered. Shows that the goods were delivered to the shipper in a good condition or a bad condition, they should note either way. And show the ownership of the goods so that the person can go and claim their goods. So these documents are very important. There are several documents that used for the movement of goods. The bill of lading, the airway bill, both allow for the transfer of title of goods. However, goods being moved inland are shipped via consignment note, which does not carry transfer of title. So let's break down this before we move on. So the bill of lading and the airway bill, very similar. One for marine, one for air, and they kind of transfer the ownership of the goods. So the goods are going to be owned by the shipper until you pay whatever you have to pay, and they will turn over that bill to you. Then you become the owner, right? So that is why when you import something on a boat, you have to go to the shipping agent and you have to pay for the documents. You have to pay for that. Because for the time being, it's theirs. If you ain't pay for it, it belongs to them. So you pay for the documents and you get ownership of the items. That doesn't, I'm not even talking about custom duties yet though. That's a whole different thing. So legal transfer of goods take place during a sale. Once these goods are transported from position A to position B, there is a need for very specific legal documents to be used. The starting point of which is the sales invoice. And we looked at invoice already, so we're not going to go through invoices again. We looked at that before. So transport documents used in international trade. Further documents are also required when goods are moved across international borders. These include import licenses, bills of lading, and airway bills. What is an import license? Again, we looked at it before, but we're going over it again. An import license is a document or a permit giving permission for an organization or individual to import certain goods that are restricted or regulated in some way. For example, in St. Kitts, if you want to import seeds, you have to get an import license. So you have to go to the Department of Agriculture and get an import license for the right to import seeds. right? So it's just basically a permit to bring in stuff. That's the import license. And you cannot import them without that document, right? That would be illegal. So you need the import license to bring in these things. The importer has to apply for this license or permit. There may be quotas restricting the quantity of a particular product imported, or there may be safety or environmental concerns regarding the importation of a particular item. And that is why you have the import license, to try to control the amount of that particular good that comes into the country. If it's going to be hazardous, you can't afford to have anybody bringing them in. So import license is one of those documents. Then you have the bill of lading. A bill of lading is legally binding document traditionally used when goods are traded. It provides the shipper with all the necessary information to process the shipment properly. It serves three main functions. The bill of lading, three main functions. It is a document of title, ownership of the goods described. Again, remember I said before, both the shippers own the goods until you pay to get them, and they give you the bill of lading. So once you pay for that, they transfer the bill of lading to you, and now the goods become yours. It is a receipt for the received goods. It represents the terms and conditions for the transport of the goods. So you see the bill of lading has a whole lot of information. Right there on the bill of lading. Very important document when it comes around trading via the sea especially. The bill of lading is also required as an evidence in claims of compensation for any damage, delay, or loss during carriage, and in the resolution of any disputes. So you can see that the bill of lading is a very important document that is needed, especially for when you are handling shipping via the sea. And you can see three main functions it serves. Right? It shows ownership of the goods. It shows that you got the goods. And it represents terms and conditions of the transportation of the goods. That's the bill of lading right there. And then we have the airway bill. What is the airway bill? An airway bill is a document used when goods are traded using air transport. It accompanies goods during transportation. It is evidence of the contract between the shipper and the air carrier. So right there, evidence of the contract between the shipper and the air carrier. So there's one exception, one key difference between the bill of lading and the airway bill, in that it does not show ownership like that. It is not, however, a document of title like the bill of lading. The airway bill includes, so all information is there already, such as so let me just clarify that. The bill of lading shows ownership. The airway bill doesn't exactly show title or ownership like that, right? It just shows that there's a contract between the shipper and the airway carrier, and they're carrying out this thing, and it outlines exactly all information needed to know about the particular shipment. So the exporter or the shipper's name and address, importer or consignee's name and address, origin and destination, value of the goods, number of packages, weight, description, special instructions, whether it is fragile or perishable, charges applicable. So that is the airway bill right here with all its information in a nutshell. Right? And so that is it for these three main transportation documents. And so we're going to study here for now, and we're going to pick up later on. We're going to go back to look at some other aspects of logistics in the next time. Right, so we're going to study here for now. And so you know what to do now. As I said before, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. Also check out the other videos we have done on logistics and supply chain. We did a past paper. The 2021 past paper had a nice question on logistics and supply chain, so you can check that on the channel, check the video, check the past paper for that one to give you a little idea of what might come on these exams. All right, so again, stay here for now. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening.